Welcome to the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast. Each week, the FSBO Authority Ernie Emad, broker, owner of One Premier International Realty, brings you his over 17 years of experience and insight, helping for sale by owners navigate the process of selling their home while avoiding the pitfalls and selling for the highest amount. Now, from our glass-enclosed studio in Coral Gables, Florida, your host and For Sale by Owner Authority, Ernie Emad.
Good morning, and welcome to the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast. This is episode number 7 of the For Sale by Owner Authority. I am Ernie Emad, the broker owner of One Premier International Realty. We're located in Coral Gables, Florida, and I'm always available to take your call. On today's segment, it's called Investors from the For Sale by Owner's Perspective. And I'd like to welcome our guest today, who is a real estate trainer for the past 15 years, as well as the owner of Showcase, DPI Showcase. And he is Mark Weithorn, and he's going to be on in just 1 second. And we're going to be covering everything you need to know if you're a for sale by owner or an investor about selling. So we're going to be discussing why you should possibly sell. Should you hold them or should you sell them? We're also going to be covering statistics for you so that you can have all of the information that you need. And we'll also cover the 3 types of investors that are out there that also may be making you offers if you're selling your property. We start every week with a inspiration quote. Character is not in the character is not in the mind. It is in the will. That's from Fulton Sheets, and that's Inspirations 365 Days a Year by Zig Ziglar. And so right now we're going to go ahead and get started with our guest today. And our guest today is, as I said, Mark Weithorn. He has been, in the past 15 years, a real estate trainer throughout the country. And he is going to be giving you a perspective a little bit different than we're normally accustomed to because he trains realtors. And so as an investor, you're going to get a different perspective. He's also the owner of DPI Showcase Web Sites for real estate agents. Good morning, Mark, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Ernie. Good to talk to you.
Thank you so much for being on the For Sale by Owner Authority. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got started in the business, and what exactly do you do?
Sure. I have a marketing background. I graduated from the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City in marketing, advertising, and photography. And for the past 15 years, I've been teaching classes, mostly at the Miami Association of Realtors, marketing classes for realtors. So I've taught probably over the time about 100,000 or more realtors, basically on how to get started, how to, run their business and how to be successful.
My goodness, 100,000 plus realtors. That brings quite a bit of experience to the podcast and to the For Sale by Owner Authority, and we're very grateful that you're spending Sunday morning with us. In segment number 1, we are going to be actually covering everything to do about statistics, and we're really going to be talking about residential properties. That's single units to up to 4 units, both single family homes and condominiums. So we're going to start with what most people have in South Florida, because most people live in a single family home where a lot of the brickle new construction has been bought by foreign investors. So let's start with single family homes, where we had a incredibly robust market with most properties under 600 with less than 6 months of inventory, and prices continuing to go up. And then we came to a COVID-19 red light that put a stop to us. So let's take a look at what is currently available in single-family homes and closed sales, and how that is beginning to affect the real estate market. Mark?
Sure. So let's take a step backward in time. Let's go back to 2008 when the real estate market crashed. You had all of a sudden a lot of homes that were investments. People were, basically getting loans to buy investment properties, and all you had to do was sign your name, maybe $1,000 down, and they were abandoning those homes, and the banks were taking them over. So in 2010 to about 2012, you had investors, flippers, come in, and basically they would buy a house for, let's say, $200,000, put in about $30,000, $40,000 in fixing it up, and then sell it for about $350,000. That went on for a while. Then another thing happened around 2016. There was a new group of buyers who came into the marketplace. Those were millennials. They were starting to graduate college. They were starting to get married. And a lot of them, were renting condos in, hip neighborhoods like, in Miami, it's Brickell, or Wynwood, or downtown Miami. And now all of a sudden they're getting married and they're thinking of having children. So now they went into the market to buy single-family homes in neighborhoods with yards and parks and schools.
And they actually make up the largest segment of new home buyers now, millennials.
100%. And what this also did was it gobbled up all the inventory of single-family homes. There's a limited inventory of those. To build a single-family home, you need a quarter, half acre of land, or not even half, quarter acre of land. But you could take 1 acre of land and put a condo building up, and then you have 300 condos. So the inventory levels of single-family homes below $500,000 is small. It's maybe 3 months supply, which makes it a huge seller's market. The minute a house goes up for sale, it sells. So from an investor's standpoint, they can't compete in that market.
Correct.
Now, the condo market is a totally different thing. After the market crashed, the dollar was weak, and you had a lot of foreign buyers come in investing money in condos.
I remember very clear because in 2011, I think it was sometime in the first quarter of 2011 was when the state relaxed the laws for condominiums that allowed for bulk purchasing. And then all of a sudden, the inventory dried up. While South Floridians were still waiting for prices to go down, the foreigners came in and said, Miami's pretty darn cheap right now, let's buy it. And that's what happened, right?
Yeah, it was also a famous case. I won't give any names, but there's a huge developer in South Florida who he lost actually one of his big developments when the market crashed. He never went bankrupt personally, but he had to give that development to the bank. But then he went in and got together a group of people with money, and they went and bought back a lot of these things at 50 cents on the dollar.
Pretty smart.
So that was, well, when you have money, that's what you do. So what happened was you had a lot of investors who purchased a lot of condos in South Florida. One, they were getting their money out of their country, and then another thing, they were looking at it as hopefully a good investment. And now what we have, especially in the condo market in South Florida, is a lot of inventory that cannot get sold. It's just sitting there.
Some numbers, statistics show as many as 30,000 available units between the Tri-County area.
Yeah, most of it is in Miami. About 70% of it's in Miami. Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, there aren't as many condos. There's a huge market in western Broward County for senior 55-plus communities. And that right now is a very hot market. The low inventory there. A lot of people from the Northeast are coming down and they're purchasing condos. They've had enough of the Northeast, with all the sickness going on and the bad weather, it's like, all right, time to go to Florida.
We've also lost some foreign investors that are refocusing in the Orlando area because prices are much less.
Orlando, the new construction market there is amazing. There's a waiting line to get a new construction unit there. Basically, they manage it for you. They rent it out for you. Most of the buyers there are from either the United Kingdom or Brazil. That's the big investors there. Down here, you have a lot of Venezuelans and Colombians and Argentinians.
Beautiful. And so that kind of talk to us a little bit about what we are seeing in the multiple listings as we begin to look at the inventory. Tell me a little bit and explain to people about the downward trending arrows, because that's going to be a telling sign of what's to come.
So if you go into the multiple listing service now, you'll see that people are dropping their prices or trying to sell their condos. And the reality is it's one of two things. Either they're unrealistic prices.
Mm-hmm.
There's two types of sellers. The one who is motivated to sell because they want to move, they want to get their money, whatever, and they'll be realistic to price sensitivity. Then you have the unrealistic seller. They're just, let me throw a line in the water, and if I get my price, then I'll sell. And their price may not be realistic. So what we're seeing is a lot of these condos that are for sale are way too high. They're probably 25, 30% above where they should be, what things are selling for. And they're just going to sit there.
Well, let's face it, these condominiums in most cases weren't built for South Floridians. Based on income and so forth, not many South Floridians can afford $600, $500, $800 a square foot, right?
True. But if you're an investor and you go in and you can purchase a condo for an appropriate price, basically you can rent it out, and there's something in real estate called a cap rate, which is the percentage of your return. It's basically the yearly gross income divided by the amount you paid for the property.
And we're going to cover that in the third segment as we make a decision about should you sell them or should you hold them. So that's a great way to segue into the second segment, which is now that you have some of the statistics, because we definitely know that there's an oversupply of condominiums and the single-family homes, although currently it's still a seller's market where properties are probably under $400,000 and still a good market with properties under $600,000, that you still have time to sell, and we'll discuss some of the reasons with that in the next segment. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover in this first segment regarding statistics that can set up segment number 2 about the 3 types of investors we're going to talk about, and then that would segue into who should hold their properties or who should sell?
Sure. So, whether you're a serious seller or you're not, you're just, putting a toe in the water to see if you can get your price. There are certain realities that exist, which is you have to pay your monthly HOA fees, you have to pay your real estate taxes. So even if a unit sits there vacant, you still have costs for carrying these properties.
Correct. You're not kidding. And again, although many people that bought condos were foreigners that were trying to protect their dwindling currency against the strong dollar amount, they also now in some of these countries are going through some tough times, and they're looking to pull their money out so that they can grab those dollars, which are at a high point now. and take their money back to their country. So we're going to be discussing those incredible opportunities. Thank you so much, and we're going to go into segment number 2 in just a moment. In the next segment, we're going to be discussing the 3 types of investors that we come across in South Florida. And that's going to give you an idea where you should categorize yourself and understand, should you sell or should you hold? These days, over 95% of people looking to buy or rent a home are looking online. As a real estate agent, if you're not online,
you're invisible.
That's where DPI Showcase Web Sites comes in. For the past 15 years, they've been creating websites for real estate agents that are linked to the MLS. Now your clients can go to your website to search for active listings. In addition, all sites have new and existing developments with floor plans, automatic blogging, and pre-designed landing pages, automatic Facebook and LinkedIn posts, and a whole lot more. Just go online to www.dpishowcase.com to take a look at what they do. That's dpishowcase.com. From this moment on, consumers will expect it and sellers will demand it. Cinematic video walkthroughs for all of your listings. Professional photography, cinematic video walkthroughs, on-camera video tours, and professional voiceover narration. I'm Ernie Emad, head of BlueHourStudios.com. Blue Hour Studios is a progressive visual and audio powerhouse producing high-end video and audio productions. Become an expert in your field with a professionally produced podcast from our studio in Coral Gables. Call Blue Hour Studios today to elevate your image and voice. BlueHourStudios.com. We are back to the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast, found on iTunes and everywhere your favorite podcast is found. And now on YouTube, Facebook, and the FSBOAuthority.com website. If you like what you hear, follow and like and share our podcast channel. On the telephone with me today is a 15-year veteran of real estate training and also owner of DPI Showcase Web Sites with great insight regarding, since he trains hundreds of thousands of realtors throughout the 15 years. As a for sale by owner, as an investor, you're going to get a different take than you can normally hear. Thank you for joining us this morning, Mark.
Okay. Great conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about the 3 types of investors that, there's many types of investors. We're going to talk about the main investors, those that are long-term holding investors, those that continue to buy and build a portfolio of properties and hang on to them for a long period of time. Then there are the foreign investors that come here to South Florida. They do help elevate our prices and why they purchase here. Those that are not living in South Florida. We know the Venezuelans and we know some of the other countries that are moving here for other reasons. And the wannabe investors and speculators, those that go through these waves and then end up dumping some of these properties. So let's talk first about the seasoned investor. What do you think they should be doing in today's market?
Well, the market changed. Actually, the seasoned investor has been on the sideline for the past 4 years. The stock market has been doing phenomenally. I mean, it's just been going up. You don't have to be a genius or an Albert Einstein to follow that. But now, because of the whole corona crisis, the stock market is not as stable as it was. And then if you start reading real estate news, you start seeing that there are properties going up for sale. There are going to be foreclosures that happen in commercial properties. And those are opportunities that investors should be looking at right now. In 2009, when the market crashed, a lot of retail centers were going under. And you had, I know one retail owner in particular who is very large, had a lot of cash, and they were going in and buying retail centers for, 50 cents on a dollar. And then when the market turned around, they were sitting there with being on top of the heap. So that's one segment to be looking at, is the commercial market.
And would you suggest it's kind of like a wait and see? Because if you're looking to jump in and purchase, obviously over the next several months we'll be able to gauge. Because I'm starting to see in some strip centers vacancies. Are you doing the same? Seeing the same?
So, yeah, there have been vacancies. For example, I live on Miami Beach, and I'll go to Lincoln Road, and you'll see that maybe 15% of Lincoln Road is vacant, and it's been that way for a long time. And you scratch your head and you go, oh, why is it vacant? And a lot of times the landlords are basically a little greedy.
A little. That's one of the highest price per square foot for a retail center in the nation.
Yeah, so they would rather let their stores sit empty until they find someone that will give them their price. There's one other thing that you kind of hit on. Some investors try and time the market. When is it going to hit bottom? When am I going to be at the bottom?
Big mistake, huh?
Big mistake. So there's two letters you have to look at. It's a good analogy. There's V and U. V is when the market contracts, it drops, and then it springs right back up, letter V. Then you have the letter U where it drops, it drags along the bottom, and then it goes up. Maybe not steeply, but it gradually goes up. So most recoveries are U's, they're not V's. So timing the market is not the way you should do it, because you have a limited inventory on these opportunities. So if you sit there and you ponder and you scratch your head and then you say, let me think about this for a few months, and then you come back, that opportunity you were looking at most likely will have been sold.
Right.
Someone else with...
Actually, yeah, when we look at numbers, we're always 3 or 6 months behind. When we see the opportunity, it's already passed us by 3 or 6 months.
Right, and the smart investors understand that, and they come in and they grab things knowing that, a year from now, they'll be ahead of the trend.
Let's talk about foreign investors. A little bit of everything, right? Because we know people are moving other countries for a better life. And we see a lot of both wealthy and non. And those that still live in their country and purchased properties because their currency was taking a dive, and the U.S. dollar has been on a consistently upward trend for the last several years.
Well, I follow statistics closely. The National Association of Realtors puts out an international buyer's guide. That comes out every year, usually around November or December.
Would you make that available to our listeners if they sent you an email or if they went to your website?
Absolutely. Sure.
Perfect.
Yeah. Basically, in the last 3 years, the number of international buyers is basically half of what it was in let's say, 2016. It's the drop. I looked at the drop for the previous year, and it went down about 10-15%. And then I looked at the drop for 2019 compared to 2018, and it was dramatic. A lot less foreign buyers are coming in. There were realtors that I worked with who, they built their business because they're from Venezuela, and all their cousins and relatives and friends were using them to get money out of the country to buy real estate here. That those realtors are basically having a hard time to either leaving the real estate market, business, or they are transitioning who they go after to sell real estate. They'll go after the millennials. And plus, we have immigration laws in this country which are making it harder for international people to come here. For example, there's a thing called an EB-5 visa where you invest in a business. It used to be $500 million to invest. No, I'm sorry, $500,000. I'm sorry, excuse me, $500,000 to invest in a business.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone up to $900,000. So it's getting harder and harder for international buyers to actually, come here and invest.
Got it. With the visa situation and so forth. So that cuts a huge portion of buyers that buys these condominiums and so forth. Are you getting a sense that we're going to start seeing on some of those investors that purchased, because we've had over 100% value increases since 2011. Do you have a sense that some of these foreigners may begin to dump some of their properties to bring their money back to their country because Brazil's having a tough time, Argentina, and maybe some people will begin to sell those properties and bring the money back?
Absolutely, and you have to learn in business that your first loss is your best loss. So, for example, let's say you went and you paid $400,000 for a condo from a developer, new development, and you thought that would be a good investment and it would go up over time. But now, because of the overbuilding, your $400,000 condo, let's say realistically, is worth $350,000. So the reality is, if you need your money, you have to say, okay, I lost money on this investment. Oh, well, take your money out and move on. That's just the way business is. If you're going to say, well, I'm going to wait and see, maybe the market will come back and maybe I'll be able to at least get my money out of it, then you have to look at two things. First, it's the carrying cost. How much is it costing you every year to carry that condominium or that property? And then it's also the today's value of money. So, for example, if I gave you $1 today, it's worth $1. But if I say to you, I'm going to give you $1 in a month from now, it's not worth $1. It might be worth 95 cents because of the fact that you had to wait for that money. So the smart thing to do is say, okay, I lost money on this investment, but at least let me get my money out. And then you have to be realistic on what the actual market value is of that property.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about exit strategies that everyone should have when they make an investment on the next segment. Now let's talk about the wannabe investors, those that want to take a gravy train or see the market increasing and they want to buy a single family home and rent it out, or a little condo and so forth. And they've got tenants that aren't paying. They can't be evicted during the COVID-19. And they begin to panic because they don't have the reserves to be able to carry these properties. Let's talk about those speculators and those wannabe investors.
So the biggest panacea is thinking that, well, it's easy money. I'll just invest in this. The rent will come in. It's easy money. There's no such thing. If you live in another country and you purchase a condo and you're renting it out, typically you have to hire someone to manage it for you. Typically that would be a realtor. And they typically get 10% of the rent for collecting the rent check and making sure that everything's going well. So there's a cost involved there. So there is no easy money being a landlord. And then if you do come across a situation where someone doesn't pay rent, you can go 4 or 5 months before you're able to get them out of the unit. And now you have to look at that towards your bottom line.
You know, they're also
So-
they're also finding out that they're not getting the type of assistance. For instance, we know that if you have a single-family home or a condominium that's backed by a government-secured loan or a Fannie or Freddie Mac, there are forbearance and programs available during these times. But we also know that if you have an investment loan, that's not available for you, so you're not going to get any type of relief from missing your payments, correct?
So the numbers don't work as an investor if you have to take out a loan, because all your profits go towards the bank and paying the mortgage.
Right. If you have a 4 or 5% return and you're paying 7% on the money.
Yeah, it doesn't work out. The only time it works out to be an investor is if you're paying cash for these properties.
Understood. That's a very, very good point. The other thing that's dried up is investment loans. Not too long ago, within the last month or so, you were able to buy an investment property with as little as 10% down. Now you need at least 40% because Wall Street provided most of those alternative loan programs, and they said, you know what, we're not going to do this now. Jumbo loans are almost impossible, and some of these other investment loans, unless you come up with sufficient money, they don't know who may be missing payments. So even for investors, the funding funnel is drying up.
You know, some people don't learn from history. We had the same situation in 2006, 2007, where to go and buy a property, you know, $1,000 down, and then you basically, you know, it adjusted in 5 years, and you were able to rent it out, and then, you know, the whole market crashed. Some of my classes that I teach, I get sponsors that come to my classes, and some of them are mortgage brokers. And they're starting to talk about no income verification loans.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Even bank statement loans have come back.
And that is we're just asking for trouble a few years down the road.
Where we went through a time where everybody that was getting a loan was well qualified. And then as the economy continued to increase, businesses want more revenue, right? So they think of more creative ways to skirt maybe even some of the Dodd-Frank rules and so forth. So that's for sure. Look, on our next segment, should you hold them or should you sell them? That's an important, because we're going to kind of put together everything that you've heard today and put it into very good perspective. Look, folks, get my free report, The 10 Things You Absolutely Must Know to Sell Your Home or Condo Without Leaving a Penny on the Table. All you have to do is text 10 things to 786-659-1811 to receive this report, or better yet, give me a call to schedule a no-obligation consultation to discuss all of the strategies that I use to sell properties. Again, 10 things to 786-659-1811. For more information, you can visit www.FSBOAuthority.com. Folks, now more than ever is it so important to have a cinematic walkthrough for your property. With less people driving around town, it's important to have professional photography and a cinematic video walkthrough of your home to put you in the top of the search engines. And Blue Hour Studios just that. From this moment on, consumers will expect it and sellers will demand it. Cinematic video walkthroughs for all of your listings. Professional photography, cinematic video walkthroughs, on-camera video tours, and professional voiceover narration. I'm Ernie Emad, head of BlueHourStudios.com. Blue Hour Studios is a progressive visual and audio powerhouse, producing high-end video and audio productions. Become an expert in your field with a professionally produced podcast from our studio in Coral Gables. Call Blue Hour Studios today to elevate your image and voice. BlueHourStudios.com. These days, over 95% of people looking to buy or rent a home are looking online. As a real estate agent, if you're not online,
you're invisible.
that's where DPI Showcase Web Sites comes in. For the past 15 years, they've been creating websites for real estate agents that are linked to the MLS. Now your clients can go to your website to search for active listings. In addition, all sites have new and existing developments with floor plans, automatic blogging, and pre-designed landing pages, automatic Facebook and LinkedIn posts, and a whole lot more. Just go online to www.dpishowcase.com to take a look at what they do. That's dpishowcase.com. Welcome back to the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast, found on iTunes, Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere you find your favorite podcasts. You can even ask Alexa. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about and love to get your feedback. I'm your host, Ernie Emad, the For Sale by Owner Authority and broker owner of One Premier International Realty located in Coral Gables. And I'm always available to take your call. Our guest today to the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast is Mark Weithorn. And Mark is a professional real estate trainer for the past 15 years, and he also owns DPI Showcase website. Welcome back to the program, Mark.
All right.
Perfect. So look, we have discussed statistics, we've covered the types of investors, and now should you sell it or should you hold it? Let me get your perspective on that.
Sounds like a Kenny Rogers song.
Hey, look, you got to make the program memorable, right? So if that's the way you can remember it, that's the way we want it.
You got to learn when to hold and learn when to fold them, you know?
It's absolutely so appropriate for today, huh?
Yeah. So, investments are just that. They are investments. If you want a surefire where you're not going to lose money, then you put your money in the bank. You'll get about 0.25% interest, and you know that, tomorrow your money will be there. If an investment is basically you're putting your money at risk. You're basically hoping that it will grow over time and that, you'll have a good return. What's amazing is I'm talking to a lot of millennials now who never really experienced a recession like we're having now. The last time they were all in school. So, mommy and daddy were, footing the bill. They really didn't pay attention.
It's a good point.
But, they were all going, oh, the S&P 500, it's just like, that's where you invest. That's going up, that's going up, that's going up. Well, in the past month, the S&P giveth and the S&P taketh. So now there's a new reality out there that, okay, there's no guarantees on investments. So if you were fortunate, if you invested and whatever you have has gone up in value and you can sell it, then, great, go ahead. If you need the money, if you want to take the money and invest it elsewhere, then sell it and invest it elsewhere. If you don't need to sell it and you think it will go up in time, then, you let it sit there and let it grow.
There's a couple of real quick things to consider if based on that particular point that you just made. Over the last several years, property values have been going up what we consider a normal, stable market at 5% per year, correct?
Some property values.
Some property values in some sectors, correct, of under 300 and under 200, right? Those things went up higher, but by average, I think we've been in a normal, stable market without those incredibly 30% price increases that we had in 2004 and 5 and 6, where we were going up 3% per month. So if you, like Mark just said, if you're thinking about where you bought it at a specific time and you can realize a specific profit now that may decline over the next several months or year. It could take another couple of years to get back to the normal market where we are today. And it may be a good time to sell now where you can sell higher. And then as property values potentially can go down, then repurchase properties for lower, similar to what that developer did, right?
Right. What the problem we're having now are people who purchased properties at too high of a price, especially condos. They may have bought new developments and they're thinking that they would be able to flip it down the road, and that just didn't happen because the developers built too much. That's where we're having the problem. Would
it be a fair statement to say that you don't see a recovery, or we don't see a recovery of the condo market for several years down the road because of the amount of inventory? And if you're in need of money and you purchased it cash, it may be better to sell now, correct, and get your cash than having those carrying costs?
Correct. But if you're going to sell now, you have to be realistic on price.
Taking a loss, no question.
Right. You have to look at comparables. You have to look at what things are selling for now. If you're in a condo and someone in the same, they call them lines, up and down. So someone right above you or below you in the same line, you look at what they sold for and you say, okay, that is the going price. This is what I need to sell for.
And then make that decision based on that. And the only you really need a professional realtor, that a real estate agent that does this full time and really understands the market, that will be able to sit with you and give you a comprehensive market study, so you can make the right decisions. And what he's talking about, the line, obviously, if you live in, if you're living currently in unit 1210, and there's units in 2010, 2210, 4010, that's that same line. And we know the higher, because in a condo, you can marble it to death. But if you're looking at the parking lot, it's the views, right?
That has a lot to do with it. It's interesting. You talked about realtors. They did this study in 2016. It's called the Sklarzz, Sklarz, and Miller study, which was really interesting. I mean, what they did was they looked at 1.35 million sales in 2016. And they found that for sale by owners actually sold 5.5% lower than when someone used a realtor.
That's very impressive. You're trying to save 3%, and you're getting 5.5% less than if you had hired a realtor, and still paying the 6%.
Right. So basically, it's a wash. Mm-hmm. You're hiring a realtor who will do all the work for you, who will find the title company for you, get the inspections done, find the buyers, do all the legwork for you. And basically, it's costing you nothing.
Yeah, this is a billion-dollar marketing engine, the real estate industry. And for sale by owners, just don't have the resources to be able to expose their property to sufficient qualified buyers, right?
Right. And then there's one other factor, and that is your financial exposure. Let's say you are selling by yourself, and you put together a contract, and the contract says that only under X conditions will the deposit be returned. So let's say the sale doesn't go through, and let's say it's not X conditions are met. The buyer still wants their money back. And you say, well, no, you didn't meet the conditions to get your money back. Invariably, they will sue you. So invariably, you then have to go hire a lawyer, and that comes out of your pocket.
Invariably, you're going to have to return the deposit, because an attorney, a litigator, is going to want $10,000 right off the bat, right, to be able to fight something, unless you have $200,000 or $300,000 in deposits.
When you hire a realtor, they absorb those costs, because there's a whole infrastructure in place with the real estate boards and mediation and things like that that will look at these things. So it's not just the money that you might save; it's also the exposure that you have financially if something does go wrong.
Plus, as a for sale by owner, let's face it, 89% of all sales go through a realtor. Another 5% purchase brand new units or through a developer. That's 94% of all sales that don't go to a for sale by owner. They're being handled by realtors or being handled by developers. Then you've got 6% of possible buyers, and 30% of for sale by owners that are successful at selling get 16% less because they sold to a family member, a friend, a co-worker, never put the property on the market. So in the end, it sounds good to save 6%, and when you realize the amount of work that is required, the few amount of buyers that you end up getting, and then having to negotiate everything, including dealing with some slick people out there that never plan to purchase the home. They'll put you under contract. They'll have a long type of a due diligence period and try to flip that contract for $10,000 to another investor. And they're not the ones that are buying the property or bail out afterwards. So there's a lot of risk involved in trying to sell a property in today's world.
100%.
Absolutely. Mark, is there anything that I have failed to bring up that you want to bring up during today's program?
Well, it's just reality is, as an investor, you have to look at it as it is an investment. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And if you're on the winning side, hey, good deal, break out the champagne and, you sell it, you make some money, and everything's good. If you're on the losing side, it's a bitter pill, and you have to say to yourself, okay, my first loss is my best loss. What do I need to do to get out of this bad situation? And then you walk away and say, okay, that was not a great investment. I'll make it back on the next one.
That's such great advice, because I remember when the market dropped back in 2006 and 7, 8, correct, that I actually advised some of my buyers that I did not sell units to, but reached out to me because I did a lot of short sales and foreclosures during that time, to not go through with the sale. It was better to lose the deposit than to go through with the sale and having to go through tens of thousands of dollars worth of maintenance fees and everything else on a yearly basis to then end up losing them.
100%. There were people who were walking away from $100,000 deposits because they saw that the values of what they were buying was dropping drastically. And also they needed their cash either back home to run their businesses or to carry them through a recession.
So a quick little nugget is definitely if you find yourself where you need to sell, correct? You have an investment property and you need to sell. The quicker you contact someone like myself, that you can get on the front end of before prices possibly could begin to drop, because we're seeing the asking prices going down. So you're at that great moment to be able to sell your property now. And at the same time, if you're an investor flush with cash and you continuously look for opportunities, we have a feeling that there's going to be quite a bit of opportunities in the condominium markets in months to come. And it would be a great time to have someone like myself that can consistently monitor the market and consistently have systems that can notify you and me immediately of great opportunities by price per square foot and so forth, and buildings. So when it hits a specific trigger, like if you were buying a stock, you would be notified and be able to move in. Would that be a good advice?
Yes, and there are going to be some great opportunities where people are going to get more realistic on pricing, and they're going to sell at a steep discount.
Absolutely.
Right now, if I were an investor, especially going after maybe some condos or even some commercial properties, and I had cash, I would walk in and immediately ask for 30% off.
Absolutely.
And you never know. They may say yes. They may come back with 25% off.
Using
But if you don't ask, you don't
you
get
don't get it. And using the power of a third-party negotiator makes that process a lot more successful as well.
Yeah.
So I also know there's a lot of realtors that listen to this program and watch the program. What can you tell them about your services and your business?
Sure. For the past 15 years, I've been creating websites for realtors that are linked to the MLS. It brings in all the listings from the MLS and updates automatically. And it shows you all the information and the pictures and description, but it leaves out the listing agent's name and number. So a lot of 95% of all consumers will end up going to the bigger websites like Zillow, Trulia, or Realtor.com. And as a realtor, if you allow your clients to do that, you run a big risk of losing your clients. So you want to get them out of those websites and get them to your website so you can take control of them.
That is so important. So important information.
And plus, when someone wants to do business with you, while they're talking to you, they're on their phones, they're Googling you. And if you don't have a good online presence, basically they're saying, this is a part-time realtor, I'm going to find someone else. We have a whole host of other features like new developments, existing developments, floor plans, blogging, where we blog for you, and automatic posts on Facebook and LinkedIn. So that's it's like a whole suite of services or products or tools that you could use as a realtor to enhance your business. And what we're doing now, we normally charge a design fee during the month of May because of the crisis that's going on. People are short of cash. We're actually waiving the design fee for making the website. There is a monthly hosting.
So they're going to be saving almost $400 right off the bat.
$300. That's correct.
Mm-hmm. It's a great start if you don't have a website, and I'm going to be a testimonial. Mark has been a customer, I've been a customer of his for more than 17 years. He started a printing company back in the days, and he printed my first business card as well as my marketing farming cards. And I've been using his websites and his services for the past 17 years. And I can vouch on because you recently updated your platform and everything. They're just stunning websites, incredible photography, easy to navigate, and to be able to have all of the condominium projects, all of the floor plans, that you can really become an expert. And they're going to teach you how to use these websites, because you're going to be able to put up properties from your office or other properties. They're going to teach you how to put them on your Facebook and so forth, so you can begin generating leads, even if they're not your listings.
Correct. You have to be online these days. Social media has become so important. Statistics show that with people being at home, they're online a lot more. And what you want to do is you want to be able to post on social media, and every time you post, you want to have it linking back to your website. That's really critical.
Absolutely.
If anyone wants more information, just go to my website, DPI, like David, Peter, Isaac, DPIShowcase.com. And you can see samples, see all the features, and then there's a way to contact us, and it's a real simple process to get started.
That's fantastic. That is www.dpishowcase.com. Visit them online, take a look at their products, contact them. Great product, and I'll vouch. My office and agents have that website, and you're going to love it. And although there was no COVID-19 when I joined, I paid the full $300. At least take advantage of these opportunities, because it's a big savings, and it gives you the opportunity during these times to elevate yourself. We have to re-engage with our customers. Some may have thought that you were closed or not working, even though we're an essential business. And what a wonderful way to contact your customers on your CRM or your customer database to let them know about your new website. That's a good way to begin re-engaging. Would you agree with that?
100%. You should be, if you're stuck at home, you should be calling everyone on your contact list.
Thank you so much for being on the program today. Mark Weithorn, the owner of DPI Showcase Web Sites for real estate agents, as well as a national real estate trainer. You've given us an incredible amount of information. Typically, we don't do programs for investors, but we know that in today's market, that's an important subject to be able to help people make decisions.
Thank you, Ernie. It's great. It's great what you're doing. You're really teaching people invaluable lessons.
Thank you so much. And everybody, thank you so much for being on the For Sale by Owner Authority. Every Sunday, we go live on Facebook. It becomes a podcast later that day that you can listen to on iTunes, on Google Play, Spotify. Ask Alexa for it. And as well, we'll be doing the rebroadcast of this program that will be on our YouTube channel on the FSBOauthority.com, as well as our Facebook page. Again, I want to thank you very much for being on the program, and we're going to see you next Sunday.
We've come to the end of another For Sale by Owner Authority podcast with your host and FSBO Authority, Ernie Emad, broker owner of One Premier International Realty. I hope you feel armed and informed to either sell your home as a For Sale by Owner or by hiring a real estate professional. The For Sale by Owner Authority podcast can be found on iTunes and YouTube as a video, as well as our Facebook page and on the FSBOauthority.com.